Let's continue with the international news. The United States has defended the use of military force as the only option to combat drug cartels in Latin America.
The United States has announced that it is ready to launch a military offensive against criminal groups in Latin America, including countries such as Brazil, Venezuela, Cuba, and Colombia. The statement was made by the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, during the Americas Against the Cartels Conference, held at the Southern Command headquarters in Florida. Hegseth made it clear that if local governments do not adopt stronger measures against organized crime, Washington may act unilaterally, carrying out ground bombings to neutralize structures linked to drug trafficking. President Donald Trump was categorical in stating that the government of Cuba will fall and that this will happen in the coming days. With the strategic repositioning of the Southern Command in the region, drug traffickers operating in Brazil have become direct targets of American forces. This means that vessels and logistical centers linked to trafficking can be attacked at any moment. The statement by the Secretary of War raises diplomatic and military tensions on the continent, putting Brazil in a delicate position in light of the possibility of external operations against drug traffickers within its territory. Welcome to Life in the Barracks. The role of the Southern Command is fundamental in the strategic repositioning of Donald Trump's government. With an exclusive focus on operations in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, its structure and operational capacity are equivalent to the forces operating in the Middle East. This means that by stating that a war against cartels will be launched in Latin America, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, did not resort to figurative rhetoric, but rather to a statement of real action. Proof of this are the operations that have already started in Ecuador, demonstrating that the plan is being carried out, and not just in the realm of intentions. With the support of Ecuador and Paraguay, the United States is mobilizing its troops for one of the largest military incursions against cartels ever seen in Latin America. The Paraguayan Senate approved an agreement that allows the temporary entry of United States military and civilian personnel into its territory, guaranteeing migration facilities, the use of uniforms, and the introduction of equipment necessary for the operations. This decision strengthened the presence of the Southern Command in the region and paved the way for coordinated actions against drug trafficking. Along the same lines, Ecuador began joint operations with the Southern Command, involving attack helicopters, amphibious troops, and units of the United States Marines. See how robustly it materializes. The strategy aims to directly confront the narco-terrorists operating in the region, increasing the pressure on criminal networks. This military movement demonstrates Donald Trump's government's willingness to intensify its offensive against the cartels, counting on strategic allies to consolidate its influence and capacity for action in South America. The mobilization announced by the United States did not please Colombia, which fears being targeted by American missile bombings, since the country still harbors an extensive international drug distribution network. The arrival of American military personnel on South American soil also raised an alert in Brasilia, because Brazil has powerful criminal factions with branches that reach various structures of national power.
The robbers use long guns and fire at a glass door. A customer enters the branch and is immediately subdued. The footage doesn't show it, but an operations manager was forced to facilitate access to the vault. The action lasted 12 minutes. After emptying the vault and the ATMs, the gang escapes, taking about 400,000 reais in cash and also taking the 2 hostages who were kneeling without shirts.
This situation puts the region on high alert, given the possibility of direct attacks against criminal organizations. The Brazilian armed forces have mobilized, and, as a preventive measure, the Brazilian army decided to extend its presence on the border with Venezuela until 2027, strengthening the surveillance and defense of the region. However, experts point out that this deployment should be permanent, not just temporary, since the threat of drug trafficking and international pressure tend to remain constant factors in the South American geopolitical scenario. The United States Southern Command has a highly capable structure to conduct operations against cartels in Latin America. With advanced technological resources, integrated logistics, and experience in irregular combat missions, this force is capable of carrying out simultaneous actions in different territories, neutralizing trafficking routes and criminal command centers. Among the most specialized elements is the use of the Marine Raiders, an amphibious troop with expertise in infiltration, capture, extraction, and commando actions, who stand out for their ability to operate in hostile and hard-to-reach environments, such as jungles and coastal areas. The operations already carried out in Venezuela exemplify this power of action. In attacks on vessels transporting drugs, the Southern Command managed to neutralize strategic maritime routes and weaken the cartel's logistics. The ground landing, which resulted in the capture of Nicolas Maduro, demonstrated the troops' ability to carry out complex infiltration and extraction missions, even in highly protected territory. These episodes reinforce the United States' ability to combine military force with strategic precision, making it a real threat to the criminal organizations operating in the region. Donald Trump's warning that he will put an end to the government operating in Cuba shows that the United States' intentions to overthrow authoritarian regimes that are complicit with crime are permanent and forceful. This stance is connected to the military actions that are still taking place in Iran, showing that Washington maintains combat fronts in different regions of the world. The United States' ability for global projection is confirmed precisely by its simultaneous presence in multiple scenarios, reinforcing the idea that the United States does not hesitate to act when it perceives threats to its security or its strategic interests.
Because President Donald Trump has once again threatened several countries in Latin America. He said that countries linked to drug trafficking will be bombed soon.
This situation puts Latin American countries at a strategic crossroads. Either align themselves with American actions or face the consequences of a unilateral intervention.
Lula said that drug dealers are victims of drug users. Look at this photo.
The users are responsible for the dealers who are victims of the users also.
The current president of Brazil doesn't seem to agree with Donald Trump's actions, And because of that, unilateral actions against cartels operating in Brazil can happen at any time. Leave here in the comments where you're from, and if you believe that actions by the United States against Brazilian cartels would be effective in reducing and neutralizing the power of the criminal factions that terrorize the country. Here at Life in the Barracks, you stay up to date with everything happening in the military world. Leave your like, subscribe, and watch one of the videos that's appearing on your screen. Forward fighters, see you next time.